it's probably worthwhile for everyone to know in this particular landscape of what's transpired in the last 2 or 3 weeks, what has driven this this whole circumstance around the transition for Hawthorn from my coaching to Sam. And it's perhaps a little bit disappointing that it's had to transpire the way that it has, because we've got the really unfortunate circumstance where Sam Mitchell, who's going to be the next coach of this football club, it should be a really exciting period for both he and us as a club, and even for me, who, despite transitioning out of being a senior coach of the club, I couldn't be more delighted in the sense that another product of our footy club is going to be senior coaching in the AFL post 2022, and that's unbelievably exciting. This is the first time, with all these guys that have come through our coaching program at Hawthorn, this is the first time, which is what's caused so much controversy, this is the first time it's happened where the coach that has been mentored in our system is actually going to become the coach of this club, and that's because I'm going to step away at the end of next year. But my commitment to this footy club, it's happened, I think, on 6 different occasions where I've signed a contract with this club, and on every one of those occasions, it was really in sickness or in health. We're gonna continue on until the end of the contract, and in lots of occasions when we've been going through this journey, we've been in a really healthy position. But similarly, like in life, there's going to be times where it's a challenge, and it's a challenge for us at the present time in terms of our ladder position. But we know where we're going as a footy club, and we know what needs to be done in terms of where we want to go over the next 3 to 5 years in positioning our club to be back at the pointy end of the ladder and competing for silverware. And perhaps that commitment, perhaps in the thrust of AFL footy and the expectation that once I was no longer going to be the coach of the Hawthorn Football Club at the end of next year, the sceptics were saying, "Oh, well, he'll move straight away." No, that's the in sickness or in health for me. That's I'm going to continue on and do this role until the end of next year. And my relationship with Sam has been ongoing for has been 17 years. It's going to go into an 18th year. I've got an enormous debt to this footy club for having the opportunity to coach this great club. When I set out, I thought if I could just even survive past my first contract, it would be a great effort, given the state of our club at the time. And then it's just unbelievable what we've been able to achieve in the last 16 or 17 years. But because of that, I've got ongoing relationships with so many people, of which 6 people are particularly critical to that, and they've been the captains that we've had at this club. In the first instance, it was Richie Vandenberg, who together with me and others around the club too, it wasn't just us, of course, but the captain and coach at a time when our club was in a fair amount of trouble at the end of 2004. Vanders was just so pivotal for getting our club and the playing group back on track in terms of where we wanted to go. Then he was succeeded by Sam Mitchell, who was the captain of our 2008 premiership, and this type of transition, strangely enough, has happened in our history before, and strangely enough, it was Mitch who handed over the captaincy to his great mate in Luke Hodge, and that was a seamless transition. It was an outstanding transition, both for Sam, who at that time of his life, he and Lyndall were starting a family, and Hodgie was ready to assume more responsibility. It was a really smooth and an easy transition for our footy club, and a very successful one. Then Hodgie, of course, was an outstanding captain for us through a very, very successful period, and then he was taken over by Ruffy, who was very, very important to me and the journey that we've had together. Then Ben Stratton was a ripper, and now Ben McAvoy. So those relationships with those captains are really, really important to me. Those relationships with our coaches who have helped mentor so many of our players across this journey are really, really important to me. It's why I've still got really, really strong relationships with the Chris Fagans and the Adam Simpsons and the Luke Beveridges and the Damien Hardwicks, and the list goes on, for guys who have been at our footy club and helped us along the way, and been so significant to the success of this footy club, but have also been so significant for allowing us to ride through the ups and downs that inevitably come your way in life, but also in AFL footy, which is a really, really challenging environment. Mitch and I have had a really, really strong relationship for the last 17 years. That's going to continue. Probably the mistake that both of us made. I mean, as I said earlier on, these types of decisions are usually made post-season when there's a coaching change. They're very rarely made in season, and certainly rarely made in season when it's a transition that's been mooted. And we've still got games of footy and to prepare for, and we're hoping as best we possibly could that this would just be business as usual, but just let's deal with what's going on the side here so that we can inform the outside footy world and our members and everything that this is going to be the transition that will happen at the end of 2022. Now, we understood, of course, that there was going to be speculation. Will Clarkson move? What does it mean? I laugh at it in one way because if they're saying that, they don't really know me well, and that's what I'm trying to portray today. I'll see through my commitment. I've always been that way. Whether it was with a marriage or whether it's in business or your work. I can remember when I married my wife. We didn't know where the journey was going to take us, but she married me at a time where I was particularly vulnerable because I just lost my brother in a car accident, and I went in a great space in my late teens and early 20s. But that journey took us to Adelaide for 4 years. My wife didn't know a soul when we went to Adelaide, but she was prepared to commit for the journey. It took us on a really sad journey where we lost a brother-in-law to brain cancer, and there's been so many challenges that we've had to address over a period of time, and that's what I'm talking about, the ups and downs. But once you make a commitment to someone, then you follow it through to the end. And my commitment to Sam Mitchell is through to the end of next year. That commitment is to Sam, it's a commitment to Lyndall, his wife, and to his 3 children in Smith, Scarlett and Emerson. And that commitment was made 17 years ago when I walked into the doors of the Hawthorn Footy Club, and Sam has paid me back in spades. And if it's my turn now to try to help him be a senior coach, to help him be the best person he can be, to help Lyndall be she's probably got the most challenging role of all, to be fair, to be able to try and manage the family life in what is a position that requires a lot of dedication, and what comes with that is a lot of scrutiny. Probably the mistake that Mitch and I made in hindsight, in the haste of just trying to keep things all as normal as we possibly could, is we said, Mitch, I'll look after the day-to-day, and he said, yep, I'll look after the future. And in theory at the time, it sounded pretty good. But what it created was a little silos, in a sense, that he was going to look after the future and I was going to look after the now. But there's just so much grey area between those silos that we've had to try to meet all this talk around mediation. I meet with Mitch every day, of which I've done so again this morning. I did yesterday. I've done so every day for the last 2 weeks. And this supposed mediation session, the session that we had with Ray McLean and Rob McCartney was, in actual fact, using Ray's great experience in the game. And ironically, along the way, he's been associated with 2 transitions that are not too dissimilar to these ones, and that was the Buckley Malthouse transition and also the Longmire Roos transition. So we had Ray there really to help us try to navigate through what we're going to do. But what we've realised in the last week, particularly this week, once it's become such a public forum for discussion, is that it's not me that really should be solely looking after the day-to-day of what's happening at the club now. And it's not Sam that should be just solely responsible for what's going on in the future. It's Sam and I looking after what's going to go on now. And it's Sam and I looking after what's going on in the future. That will go until the end of 2022, and I'm hopeful our club will be in a better position at that point in time in terms of showing the football world, but more importantly our members and supporters, that the direction that we're taking and the path that we want to tread over the next few years is heading in the right direction for our footy club. But ideally, I'd love our I'd love our supporters, our members, and even the wider football community to applaud Sam Mitchell for the involvement that he's had at our club, but in the game to date, he's been an iconic Hall of Famer. Really, he's going to be in when he becomes eligible in the not too distant future. And here's another opportunity for him to make an enormous contribution to our game going forward. And he's got my full support. He's had it for 17 years, despite what's been said over the last 4 weeks. He's got it for the next, or beyond the next 18 months, really, because this relationship that I've got with the Mitchells and the Roughheads and the Hodges and the Gillums and these guys, the Vandenbergs, the Dixons, the Barkers, these guys, the Rattons, I could just go on and on for people that are really important in my life. And even though my time at the Hawthorn Footy Club is going to finish in a senior coaching capacity at the end of next year, I want those relationships to be lifelong, and they have been really important relationships to Karen and I over the course of the last period of time that I've been at the footy club, and I want it to continue to be that way. And Sam is no different to that. And if we can help he and Lyndall and their 3 beautiful kids, if we can help them in any way possible over the next 12 to 16 months or whatever it might be, to transition into a senior coaching role, then we're going to do that together, and it's going to be as smooth as we can possibly make it. And there'll be a bit of tension along the way, but we're going to do it together. I don't know any I don't know any marriage. I don't know any business partnership or anything along the way where there isn't healthy tension in terms of having discussions about the path forward and the way that you should do things. And I welcome that. We've never been backward in speaking our mind at our footy club within the walls of the club, knowing that there's trust and respect that that whatever we say, we align on eventually and get ourselves moving and bring others along the way with us. So that's going to be no different. So hopefully in that, I'm not sure if that was 5 minutes or it might have been 10, but hopefully in that little spiel, you get to learn enough about me. There's enough information there for you to understand how rock solid we are on the transition and the path forward. And that, I'm happy to take any questions on this week's game or COVID or whatever it happens. But I can sit and answer questions about that for a long period of time, and I'd probably prefer to leave that to post game now and or on Monday or Tuesday of next week. So if we can fire away about Adelaide or COVID, then let's go.
Alastair, I don't want to talk about you and Sam's relationship. The leaks from the footy club's very un-Hawthorn-like. I'd just like to get your response to what appears to be happening there, and then I'd like to move on. So that's all I wanted to ask about.
Yeah, well, come to the press conference on Saturday, Arvo, Rob, and we'll answer that question.
Okay, no worries. Well, okay, I'll keep going again. Your form, what have you made of the draw coming off a disappointing performance, and where did the improvement come from?
Yeah, well, I think needless to say, we've had a disruptive last 3 or 4 weeks at our footy club. No one can turn away from that. But in the immediate aftermath of everything that went on, we just weren't in a great space mindset-wise, whether that was the coaching group, the playing group, to play well against Fremantle. Unfortunately, we just didn't have the spirit and energy that you require to play professional sport against a good outfit in Fremantle. And we dropped that game by 10 goals, which is just so unlike us, particularly at that ground down in Tassie, which are home away from home. So things were a little bit settled moving into last week's game, and that's what I'm saying about Sam and I just being much clearer on what our roles and what we need to do with our footy club as a result of some of the discussions that we've had, and perhaps even telling them that I'm going to be looking after now and Sam in the future didn't allow the players to have real clarity around where they sat in all of that. But that was addressed a little bit better last week and again this week. So I'd hope that our performances now are truly reflective of a cohesive group now that knows where they're going and what they're going to be doing. I think that was reflected in our performance against Melbourne last week, and I'll be hopeful that we put in another spirited performance against Adelaide on Saturday night.
In terms of tactics, Alastair, will you still be the main man, I guess, on game days, pulling the strings, basically?
No, it'll be we, as I indicated before, and that's probably the mistake that we made, thinking that I've got an enormous amount of that I can contribute and help Mitch with in terms of where we position our club in the next 12 to 14 months, and he's got an enormous amount that he can contribute, or he has been doing so for the last 3 years at our club, but he's got an enormous amount that he can contribute into the day-to-day here at the football club. Now, obviously, he's got his Box Hill responsibilities. They're on hold a little bit at the moment because of the COVID crisis and the VFL season being postponed or suspended just for this point in time. So he can contribute enormously to our day-to-day of what's going on at the club now, because you can't have an active involvement in the Box Hill program just at the minute. But we're hopeful that we're just going to share this, and that's what we've probably come to the realisation in the last week to 10 days with some of the discussions we've had, including the one with Ray and Rob McCartney, that we need to do this together, and so he'll have an enormous contribution to make in the playing side of things, and I'll have hopefully a contribution to make in terms of how we shape some of the decision we need to make about the future of the club.
Clarko, you mentioned the playing group and how they've been. Obviously, you had a bit of a disrupted week this week with the fixture shifting places. How are they at the moment? How is the group adjusting to what's happening at the moment internally, but also, the uncertainty with the fixtures? Do you feel like they're in a settled headspace, or has it been unsettling for them?
No, I think the last 2 weeks have been a pretty strong indication of where the headspace of the players. They're probably a little bit confused and dispirited with how things unfolded in the week leading into Fremantle. It does create confusion. Some of it you just can't help. A lot of hysteria, speculation. No one really knew, despite coming out on frequent occasions saying that I wasn't going to be going anywhere. No one really believes you, so it's just like, as much as you say it, you just try to get it on with it as best you can. But the players, until you can look them in the eye like we've been able to do on numerous occasions, and it's like 3, 4, 5 times look them in the eye and say, hey, I'm staying, I'm not going anywhere, then they should have known that from me in the first instance when it was said. But because there's just so much scrutiny and speculation, they sometimes tend to think, oh, I wonder if he might go. Why wouldn't he, in a sense, like everyone else is asking. But perhaps even they sometimes don't know the real me. The McAvoys and the O'Mearas and the Bruce's and the Shields and these guys, they know me very well, and they knew I was rock solid. I wasn't going to be going anywhere. So, but for the younger guys, it's more difficult for them to work their way through that. So we were perhaps a little bit unsettled leading into Fremantle. We're a lot better against leading into the Melbourne game, and this week I would hope that we're exactly the same as the lead into the Melbourne game, that our blokes have got great spirit and great energy, and we're really looking forward to the Adelaide game. Yeah, there's been some disruption in terms of where the games are played and who the opponents will be and all that sort of stuff, but just like 17 other clubs, we're just doing our best to keep the game alive in pretty challenging circumstances. The AFL are doing an unbelievable job really trying to navigate through this minefield of COVID and its impact on professional sport, but its impact on our community, to be fair. And we feel like we've got a role to play, professional sport, to lift the spirits of people. I know the Olympics starts tonight. There have been some preliminary games with the soccer. We love the Olyroos beating the Argentinians by 2-0 over the night, and so there's already some games being played in the Olympics that gives people heart, whether it's Aussie rules or whether it's me as just a lover of professional sport. It's going to watch the Olympics over the next 2 weeks, and then beyond that, the Paralympics as well. It's just like it gives us heart that in these tough times we can still have some parts of our lives still providing us with some joy. So we're hoping we can do that with AFL footy, and we admire what the AFL have been able to do, and we'll just abide by their direction as best we can. They're the ones with the most significant links to government and to the key stakeholders of grounds and all sorts of deals that they have contract with broadcasters, and we'll do whatever we need to do to just play games of footy, and that happens to be Saturday night at Marvel Stadium against the Crows on this particular game.